I'm Mr. Thomas. I'm the engineering teacher at Pickerington High School Central. Here at Central Engineering, we have two categories of classes. We have our regular classes that are more driven around mechanical and material engineering. It's all project-based. Students work with their hands a lot, and they do a lot with material testings with our trebuchet projects and just a basic hands-on class in the scope of engineering. And then we have our higher level classes, which are our new Project Lead the Way. And we've started that this year. We have what's called IED, or Introduction to Design and Engineering. And in that class, students learn the design aspects of engineering and how different things are made. And they actually have a chance to get with software and design their own parts and stuff like that. So they get to more of a design aspect their freshman year, and we're going to continue to offer classes as we move forward. We're going to add Principles of Engineering through PLTW next year, which is a great opportunity for students to take what they're learning in the math and science class, the trig or the geometry and the algebra, and really understand how that applies to the engineering field, and they're able to work more. And that's also where students will work more with robotics and programming and where a lot of it comes together. So Principles of Engineering is more of a smorgasbord or a variety banquet and a buffet, you might say, of just different engineering fields. So yeah, that's kind of where we're headed. We're eventually going to have a 4-year program with Project Lead the Way in engineering, which will end their senior year in a capstone class where they'll specifically pick an engineering field to research and do projects in all year. And so that's where we're headed right now. So we have what's called Tiger Tech Club here at Central. We started what it looks like now about 4 years ago, and it just started with a trebuchet competition. And we decided to give it a shot, and we've never done anything like that before. We ended up winning, which has been awesome, and sometimes we didn't in the beginning have a lot of failure, so I think that was an interesting transition. So what we did was we just kept looking for competitions and more things to compete in, and turned what was just an after school, hey, let's hang out, okay, we're done, go home, into a competitive team of engineers traveling all over the state to go up against some of the best engineering programs in the state of Ohio. And we have come up on top more often than not, and it's been really interesting to see the students really excel in specific areas. I think that's been the most gratifying thing for me, is you see what students like and they grow in that area. And we're fortunate enough to have a very diverse population here, so not everyone wants to do trebuchets. We also do robotics. Not everyone wants to do robotics. And we also do soapbox derby. Not everybody wants to do soapbox derby. So there's a little bit of something for everybody, and everyone has an opportunity to participate. And that's what Tiger Tech has turned into over the last 4 years, is this family of engineers that depend on one another to achieve goals and have, you know, a competitive arena where not a lot of my students are really that athletic. They enjoy competition, but they may not be able to throw a football or shoot a basket or run on a track. So this gives them a way to compete with their minds and compete academically, but still have that competitive edge and the desire to be the best. And I think that's a big thing that's really driven what we do, and it really sits at the core at not just Tiger Tech, but in all of our engineering classes, is we want to be the best. We want to be the best engineering program in the state of Ohio, if not the United States. And so we've really driven at that point. And yeah, it started with literally 6 to 8 students 4 years ago, and it's now a club almost 60 people and multiple awards, and it's been a really interesting 4 years.
My name's Spencer, and I'm a junior.
I am Mustafa, and I'm a senior.
I am Wesley, and I was a sophomore. My favorite moment from tech, it was probably either the time my arm shattered on my trebuchet, which was the best and worst moment that I've had in Tiger Tech, or when my trebuchet won second place in the tournament. That was a good feeling, my first trebuchet.
Probably my favorite moment would be Trebuchet Rush Week, which would be the week before our competition, which is basically just non-stop working.
Trebuchet Rush Week. My experience with Rush Week was not actually a rush week, it was a rush day, because instead of testing at the Monday of a week, we tested on the Friday, and I worked 8 straight hours to finish my arm that had shattered in half, which was hilarious, and I think you should partially include in telling everyone when you meet them. It was fantastic.
Trebuchet Rush Week?
Yeah.
Trebuchet Rush Week is the worst thing that ever happened to mankind. It is probably the most fun you would have not sleeping. Yeah, Trebuchet Rush Week is a thing that's kind of developed because of failure. As we've gotten ready for our trebuchet competition every year, we push our trebuchets to breaking, and then we know the limits, and then we have to fix them. But unfortunately, sometimes they're built so well, fixing them is a task that could take 12 to 20 hours. This past year, we were actually here until 3 a.m. Here in the shop working to compete the next morning at 8. And Trebuchet Rush Week, I'm always a person against it, but for some reason it just keeps on happening, and I just can't get away from it. It haunts me. I don't sleep when I think about it. I wake up in cold sweats. It's terrible. It's terrible.
I don't know. There have been a lot of things breaking that have been fun to watch, not fun to fix. Yeah, we've spent a lot of long nights together trying to get things working and finished, and I think when we really strap in and get a lot of hard work done, when even when it's really, really difficult and stressful, and especially to have that pay off in the competition the next day, I think that's what's really special.
Hectic. A lot of running around, but it is probably one of the best things you can ever do. It is the most fun you'll ever have, and if you win anything, that is probably the greatest feeling ever, considering a lot of times there is tough competition.
Trebuchet competitions day of, they're a little hectic until we get going. You have to transport this machine that's meant to throw a pumpkin as far as it can, usually holding between 400 and 600 pounds. You have to transport this machine from the shop clear over to the field. And last year, which is one of my favorite memories, somebody got their trebuchet stuck in a tree, and it eventually broke, which was kind of funny. But yeah, the day of, it's always nerve-wracking trying to get set up, get everything ready. But I always love that moment when that first throw goes off, and you just kind of take a sigh of relief, and it's going. And anything that happens past that point is okay, because there's nothing you can do about it. You're on the field, you're competing, and it's completely outside of your control. You have to rely on the students to make sure that they have done their job, because you've already done yours. As a teacher, as an engineering coach, once you get on that field to compete, I've done my job, and I'm here to support, but I can't do it for you. So for me, it's always that sigh of relief as soon as that first throw goes off.
It's a lot at once. It's definitely a sensory overload. You get there and there's people running around from, to the judges' table, to the competition field, to their robot in their pit. And especially when you're taking a leadership role, you've got to do a lot of moving and talking to people on one end, working like at the field, getting things done there, and then running all the way back to the pit and telling people what they need to do to maintain the robot to get it ready for the next competition. And then you've got to go around and talk to other teams and things like that. So there's a lot to do at once at a competition.
Well, my competitions are really interesting. I come from a wrestling background. I coached wrestling for years, and that's one reason I love Tiger Tech is because I don't coach anymore. I don't coach athletics anymore. I coach academically, and it's been a good outlet for me, and it feels very similar to a wrestling tournament would, or I guess any other tournament. But you're in a room with 40 to 60 other teams, all with the same goal to make it to states. That's everyone's goal at our tournaments, and it's really interesting just watching that dynamic of how everyone else is doing things differently, but everyone has the same goal. Everyone's playing the same game, everyone has pretty much the same parts, but everyone's view on it is all different, and that's something I enjoy about it. It's very hectic. You have to pay attention. Matches are going constantly for hours, and it's really easy to miss your next match. But yeah, it's very fast paced, and it's interesting to see something so academically and engineer driven be so entertaining and so much like a competitive sport, because a lot of these students take it that way. Soapbox is a little bit different in the way that it's so dependent on one person. We have a team of students that get the car ready, tune it, but it's that one person behind the wheel that steers it down the hill. It's all on them. You cannot succeed without a good driver in Soapbox. You can have the best crew in the world, the best pit. It does not matter. It all comes down to that one person, and it's really interesting and gratifying to see all the phases of Soapbox kind of come together in the end. You have all your cleaning from the year before, you have all your tuning and testing and everything, and then you have your driving and actual race day, which has been awesome. We were fortunate to win, come in second in 2 tournaments and then come in 5th at nationals. That was awesome to really see that, because we got annihilated our first year doing Soapbox, and this was our second year. So to kind of go back and almost redeem ourselves, because like I mentioned earlier, Tiger Tech is used to winning. That's just kind of what we do around here. Is we try to be the best, and a lot of times we succeed. And so, yeah, it's different. Soapbox is different from the other 2, but they all kind of share very similar components with one another, with the competition feel and the team effort and the family environment we try to produce, and yeah, they all kind of play off each other, and it's very dynamic, and you never really get bored in Tiger Tech because there's always something to do. It's either robotic season or it's trebuchet season or it's Soapbox season, or something's always going on where a lot of athletes may compete for 3 to 6 months. They'll take a few months off and then train for a little while, where we're at it all the time. We don't really take breaks. Now, some students do. They need that time, but some students just go all the way through. And it's a different environment than I think anybody's really used to. But people choose it, and students love it, so I keep doing it.